pay his outstanding bills. Well, just to gild the lily, whoever his bank is got hit hard in the subprime mortgage mess, so they called in a lot of debt, including what they had on the land his mine sits on. And the Nebezna mine also just happens to sit right on the route to the valley where Global Harvest has its leases, Kate said. Jim nodded. Owning the Nebezna mine will give them easy access. Hell, Kate said, Mac's road into the Nebezna mine gets them partway there. And give the devil his due, it's a pretty good road. Better than the state road into the park. No kidding. Although, that's not saying much. She pointed with her chin. The coffee's fresh, and there's gingerbread. Outstanding. He busied himself in the kitchen. Mac's pretty pissed about the whole deal. You know how he was such a rah-rah boy for the Suulatuk from the get-go? Now he's saying Global Harvest and his bank must have been in cahoots, that they conspired to force him to sell for pennies on the dollar. Where's he saying this? At the roadhouse. What were you doing out at Bernie's? Your cousin Martin was making a nuisance of himself again, so I went out to lay down a little law. Kate sighed. What did he do this time? Got stumble-bum drunk, tripped over a chair, and spilled a beer on the current quilt. Holy shit, Kate said, looking up. Is he still living? Jim regarded the quarter section of gingerbread he had cut with satisfaction and not a little drool. The aunties were pissed. Imagine my surprise. And Martin? Jim looked up and grinned. It was wide and white and predatory. I think Bernie called me out more to get Martin into protective custody than because Martin was misbehaving in his bar. Martin being one of his better customers, Kate said. Any other news from the front? Howie Kotelnikov, boon companion to the late and unlamented Louis Deem, had been at the roadhouse too, hanging around the outskirts of the Auntie's quilting bee, but Howie's life was hanging by a thread where Kate was concerned. Jim thought on the whole, better not to mention Howie's presence. It wasn't that Jim, a fair-minded man, didn't understand and to a certain extent didn't even approve of Kate's homicidal intentions toward Howie. He was as certain as he could be, lacking direct, concrete evidence, that Howie was responsible for the attack that had put Kate's truck in the ditch with Kate and Johnny in it. An attack which had also put Mutt in the hospital with a very nearly fatal bullet wound. There would be justice done at some point, no doubt, probably when Howie and the eagerly awaiting park rats least expected it. Kate knew well the value of patience. The usual suspects, he said in answer to Kate's question. Pretty quiet on the northern front. He frowned down at the gingerbread, which didn't deserve it. I have to say, it's been an odd summer all around, though. Between the case and deckhanding for old Sam on the Freya during the salmon season, Kate was a little out of touch on current park happenings. How so? He meditated for a moment. Well, I guess I could sum it up by saying people haven't been calling me. She looked up at that, amused. What, are you bored? Suffering from a deficiency of mayhem? He smiled briefly and without much humor. I guess what I mean is I'm getting called out a lot, but only after the fact. She was puzzled. I'm sorry, you're always called out after the fact. A crime is committed, victim calls the cops, that's the way it works. That's the way things are supposed to work. He put the saran wrap back over the cake and leaned on the kitchen counter. I'll give you an example. Just today, Bonnie had to call me down to the post office to break up a fight between Dimitri and Father Smith. What happened? Smith dug up a section of Beaver Creek. Kate thought for a moment. Dimitri has a trapline on a Beaver Creek. This would be the same creek. Dimitri was seriously pissed off. Big surprise. But instead of getting me, or maybe Dan O'Brien, chief ranger of this here park, to call Smith to account, Dimitri tracks him down on his own and proceeds to beat the living crap out of him. The Smiths were a large family of Chichacos who had bought a homestead from Vinnie Huckabee the year before and had come close to federal indictment for the liberties they had taken with the parkland across their borders, principally with a Caterpillar tractor they had rented from the aforesaid Mac Devlin. Really, Kate said. What a shame. Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't toss the both of them in the clink. Anyway, I only meant the story as a kind of an example of what's been going on. A lot of people been messing around on parklands? No.